All right, Alexander, we are going to have to discuss the situation in the United States. And a couple of days ago, I thought the momentum was towards Biden staying, but my sense of things is that the momentum has shifted and that the donors, without a doubt, the donors want him gone. And the media, it seems like most of the mainstream media is with the donors and they want Biden hard. I mean, the New York Times is going very hard against Biden, as is the Washington Post, as it appears CNN as well. They're angling at trying to get Biden to go. And with each story that they publish about Biden, it makes it harder for Biden to stay. With every story that they put out there about how unfit Biden is to be the candidate for the Democrats, it makes it that much harder for Biden to justify his position as the 2024 Democrat Party candidate. Do you sense the same shift in momentum? I mean, a few days ago, it seemed they were going to stick with Biden. Now it looks like the momentum is moving in the direction of trying to find a way. I don't think they found it yet. Trying to find the formula with money, with finances, legal, trying to find how they can maneuver Biden out. What are your thoughts?
I think that's exactly right. And I'll tell you, I think what's happened, I think the private polling data is coming through. I think that after the disastrous performance, they had a collective freak out. They said, we can't go ahead with Biden. It's impossible. We will lose the election. And then they steadied it because Biden didn't want to leave. His immediate circle basically closed the wagons around him. They also looked at how complicated and difficult it would be to, replace him with someone else at this very late stage. So for a short, brief time, it looked as if there was a steadying of nerves and a sort of coming together around him. And then I think what's happened is that the Democratic Party is starting to get opinion polls coming through the opinion poll data, and it's turning out to be even worse. This is private data. It's not data they're sharing with us, but it's coming out even worse than their worst fears. So the freak out is now back, and they're saying to themselves, my God, whatever happens, we've just got to get someone else, because however difficult it is going to be to spin, we simply cannot continue with the current incumbent, because we're not just going to lose, we are going to lose very, very big. And we might lose our position in Congress, we might lose all kinds of things. So this is what this is all about. So the donors who are worried about their investment, as donors do, are saying he's got to go. And others are saying it also in the media, which is desperate to prevent a Trump victory, because they're deeply, don't forget, they're deeply committed. They've been very committed now for many, many years to keeping Trump out. And they must be worried about, what will happen if Trump is elected. Will he bear a grudge, for example, against them for some of the reporting that he's engaged in? Anyway, one way or the other, they also want Biden gone, because even if they can't hold on to the presidency under, say, Kamala Harris, who looks like she's probably going to be the person to step in, because realistically, who else can it be? They probably still hope that if they can put together some kind of campaign before November, they'll be able to hold on to Congress, or at least as much of Congress as it is possible to hold on to. And I suspect this is what this is about now.
Yeah, my sense of things is that the donors are playing a key role in all of this, even though the Democrat Party, the DNC, is trying to present it as if the donors aren't going to decide who's going to be the candidate. We decide as a DNC. I think that's just a bunch of nonsense. I mean, the donors are going to decide, and I think it's crystal clear the donors do not want Biden.
Yes.
The, the problem appears to be the money that has been raised, and how do you keep that money? How do you transfer that money over to the new candidate? Which it looks like the easiest path forward is Kamala Harris. that appears to be the easiest path forward, but it's not a definite. I'm hearing Newsom. I'm hearing Gretchen Whitmer. Who knows? And how do you convince donors to continue to support the Democrat candidate, especially Harris, who it looks like she's ahead when it comes to Biden in the polling numbers, but it's still not someone that could. It looks like it's not someone that could beat Trump. But what are your thoughts there? I mean, at the end of the day, money decides. That's the way I always look at these things. So
Absolutely. And in American politics, it decides conclusively. I don't think there's any doubt about this. I think if the donors want him gone, eventually, some way or other, he will be gone. It may take a lot of doing, but they will find a way. And about the money as well, the money that's been tied up supposedly for Biden, again, there are probably all kinds of difficult legal issues. But I think they'll find a way round, or a way that um, they will say gets around these problems. I mean, look at the legal culture that's evolved in the United States over the last 10 years or so. So many things that we thought impossible have suddenly happened. I mean, due process thrown out of the window, strange indictments. I mean, these people, whatever else you may say about them, have infinite elasticity when it comes to, these kind of legal norms. I don't think this is going to hold them back. I don't think this in itself is going to be enough to hold them back. They'll just come up with some interesting new legal theory, which they will spin, and they will say that, people who, crowdfunded for Joe Biden really intended that it should be Kamala Harris. I think they'll find some way around this. So I think that is what they're going to do. I think they will eventually manage this. It's going to be very messy and very difficult. And it points again to your point that you made way back about 10 months ago, which I've never forgotten, which is just before the primary season, that they had only a few weeks left to sort this problem out in an orderly way, to get the old man to go and to put someone else in place. And what they have found is that because they didn't do that, it's going to be terribly messy getting rid of Biden, and they're probably stuck with Kamala Harris, which is probably not what they wanted at all.
yeah. Does the collapse of Project Ukraine, when it collapses, will that fall in Kamala Harris's lap, or does Biden get off on getting the plane from Project Ukraine? I mean, I don't know. What the next person is going to be burdened. I guess this is the real point. The next candidate, or the next maybe someone will be president as well. Maybe Kamala will be president for 5 more months. Who knows how all of this is going to shake out? But that's going to be the person that's going to have to deal with some very complicated, dangerous geopolitical issues.
I think my own personal view, and again, this is my view, I can't, I mean, I don't know the internal mechanics of this, but if the Democratic Party and the president himself decide that he cannot be the candidate going forward into the November election, then sooner or later, very soon, he's going to stand down as president as well. And we will have President Kamala Harris. It'll only be for a couple of weeks or months, probably, until the November election. But I cannot realistically see how he can stand down as a candidate and remain president of the United States. There's already people like Seymour Hersh, and by the way, his opponent, Donald Trump himself, saying, well, hold on a moment, isn't this really the key issue? Is this person that we see, is he really able competently to run the government and the affairs of the United States through a time of crisis? And of course, if he steps down because, well, you know why? Well, it seems to me that question becomes unanswerable, except by having him stand down. So I think personally that is what will happen. That's my own personal view. If they do manage to get him to stand down, which I personally now think they will, by the way. So that means that it will be Kamala Harris who will be left holding the baby, which is Project Ukraine, because she will probably be president when it all falls apart, and she will have to make the key decisions. Now, some people might find that a comforting thought. I don't, but there we are.
I imagine, just a final thought, I imagine if that does happen, and I think you're exactly right, by the way, if Biden is not the candidate, how can he stay on as president with the entire world knowing that he's not in charge of anything? He's not making any decisions,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, this is all about his functioning brain, his cognitive abilities, right?
Yes.
He's not stepping down as candidate for the 2024 election because his polling numbers are bad and he's just tired of doing the job, or he wants to move on to just live a quiet life somewhere. No, this is all about what's up here.
Yeah.
It's not working. So there's no way that you can spin another 5 months of Biden until the 2024 election. So yeah, that's exactly the way I see it as well. Would the establishment, the DC establishment, the Democrats, would they perhaps say, okay, Kamala, you're the new president, but in order to calm everything down, we'll keep Biden's staff on board. We'll keep the Sullivans and the Blinkens in order to provide some continuity, or perhaps Kamala brings her own people, which would be just wow. That would make things very, very chaotic and uncertain. I mean, how do you see it if this scenario plays out? This is
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to say to Kamala, "Well, for heaven's sake, you're not president, but you don't have a mandate to be president. We're in the middle of a crisis. You've got to focus on the election. Don't change the team at this point. Keep the geniuses." Jake Sullivan, who is a man of immense experience and understanding of world affairs, and our outstanding Secretary of State Tony Blinken, and our brilliant CIA Director Bill Burns. Keep them all in charge. Have them, running things exactly as they've been running them up to this point, because you can't really, make the ship even more unstable than it already is. I'm absolutely sure that is exactly the advice they are going to be giving her. The trouble is, I get the sense that Kamala doesn't particularly like Biden's team, not because she thinks that they're incompetent. I don't think she particularly worries about that either, actually. It's just that she doesn't like them because there's all these rivalries and hostilities that have been festering within the administration, and all of the criticism that has been directed by these people at her. And I suspect that if she does become president, Kamala will absolutely want to fulfill the role of president fully and will want to campaign on that basis in November. So I think there's a fair chance she will try and sack the entire team. And, what happens then, who knows?
I have to give you one more question. The EU, the collective West leaders, not even the EU, the collective West leaders, EU, the UK, Canada, they followed Biden down this foreign policy path, this foreign policy disaster. The Middle East, Project Ukraine, China as well. What are they thinking? I mean, this is the man that they bet everything on. They bet everything on this man. What do you think is going through their heads right now?
They are in collective shock. I mean, make absolutely no mistake about it. They're in panic about this, more so than any media commentary or story is saying. They are terrified that Trump is going to be elected in November. They burnt their bridges with Trump in the most foolish way. So they're terrified about that. They're terrified about instability in Washington. They're terrified that Project Ukraine is going to go down in flames whilst this complicated transition process is happening. And above all, the thing that haunts them is that they'll be left, alone, holding Ukraine as it falls apart, even as this very complicated electoral political process that we see playing out in the United States ends up with the United States saying, look, we've invested too much time in Europe. It's time for us to focus on the region that really matters, which is the Asia Pacific region. And that is for the Europeans the absolute ultimate nightmare. With Biden, at least they knew that he was on track to keeping Europe, at full center. With Kamala Harris, with Newsom, with anyone else, not to mention Trump, they can't be so sure. So they're freaking out about this. They've lost out terribly in every way. And we've often spoken about the mistakes that the Democrats made. The mistakes that the Europeans made have been orders of magnitude greater. The lack of responsibility towards their own people by aligning themselves so closely with a administration so bizarrely led is just, it's just beyond belief.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right. The one lesson that the U.S. should take away from this, when I think about it, the past 3 years, is that it's time for the U.S. to focus on the U.S. After this,
Absolutely.
all of this chaos, to me, I look at this and I say, this is whatever happens next. It's time for the United States to focus on the United States. And yeah, that terrifies the Europeans, no doubt about it. Yeah, but
more than anything,
that's the lesson. Yeah.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I endorse that 100%. I'll say something else to our American viewers. If that happens, they will find that it's a far more interesting, exciting, enjoyable politics. They will be discussing real problems, coming up with real solutions. It will be real politics returning to the United States again, not this dreadful, synthetic, fabricated politics that we've been living with for far too long.
Yeah, agreed. All right, the Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X, and go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. The links are in the description box down below. Take care.